The hell are you supposed to be?
I'm vengeance.
Okay, so The Batman, starring Robert Pattinson. I think I don't know if it's the best Batman movie. It's the one I enjoyed the most. It's the one I felt the most satisfying.
I've been trying to reach you. Where's the gun?
So why is that? Well, I started reading the Batman comics when I was very little. I had an album which had the very first comics in there. And the Batman was a dark mofo. I mean, he was pissed off because criminals killed his parents, and he had the wherewithal, the finances behind him. He went around and he killed people. He found the bad guys and he administered his form of justice. He killed them. He was a badass. And I was kind of disappointed when the 70s TV series came out with the piff, paff, pow on the screen and, just the general silliness of the Adam West Batman. And that just never worked for me. I was looking for something darker, which is where things went when they started making the proper Batman movies. This worked for me because Pattinson was convincing for me. He was dark, he was moody, he had a dark sense of humor, like with the twins when they warn him, like, we don't want blood all over your outfit, and then he replies,
Mine are yours.
I mean, his dark humor, and there's a couple more instances of that later. So if we compare him to the other Batmen, the other actors playing Batman, we start, say, with Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton, I think there's a quote somewhere saying that he plays an insane person scarily well. And I've seen him in a couple of other roles, and of course he was amazing in Birdman. So yes, but physically he was just not scary. He's not a physical actor. They did their best in that movie, but he's not a big physical actor. George Clooney.
Julie, I'm not the marrying kind.
I know you've had your wild nights.
Good night. Wild doesn't quite cover it.
Val Kilmer, he always seemed kind of confused. I think he said something like his movie was so bad it was almost good. Well, it just doesn't work. Christian Bale, a phenomenal actor. But the whole Christian Bale Batman thing for me was a little bit sword and sorcery. It was just a little bit out there in the fantasy world. And I believe that his interpretation where he was going with the Batman was a little bit at odds with what Christopher Nolan wanted to do. And maybe that showed in the film. But I mean, the best up to that time, definitely. Ben Affleck, love the guy, Good Will Hunting, all the way through. But as Batman, for me, it didn't work because he's a bit boring. The best humor was like, what's your superpower?
I'm rich.
And he got Superman killed. Sorry, I can't forgive him for that. So Pattinson really worked for me. And I think part of that was like if you notice most of the way through the movie, if you've seen it, he refers to himself and other people call him Vengeance.
It's okay, baby. Mr. Vengeance here, yeah. You don't bite.
He doesn't get called the Batman. And that name, it becomes important in the movie. And later on, it signifies a major change in the story, which is something else that's really important. We'll come back to it, but this movie has a story. It has an overall arcing story. It holds together. And within it, the Batman character evolves as well, which is something that doesn't really happen in many of the other movies. They show Batman Begins, Christian Bale, and how he gets to where he was.
We can teach you to become truly invisible.
But then he's kind of stuck. But this one has got the evolution of a character, and that's what really appealed to me.
There's Falcone.
You can't talk about a Batman movie without talking about the villains. And we've got legends like Jack Nicholson and Heath Ledger, of course. Now, Nicholson was Nicholson, and it's okay, but it wasn't really that convincing for me. Heath Ledger was incredible, as everybody applauds him for.
Cops and lawyers wouldn't dare cross any of you. I mean, what happened? Did your balls drop off?
But his version of the Joker just wanted to see the world burn. There wasn't really any motivation. There wasn't any real... there's nothing that a person could relate to. So that was a problem, I think, for many people with that character. Amazing acting, but it was a character you couldn't really get under the skin of because he was a total nut job.
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, Danny DeVito, Jim Carrey, love these guys, amazing. But as villains, it was just silly, just not really threatening, just a bit wacky, silly. So I like this Paul Dano character. Dano, I'm assuming, Dano, sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. When we first see him, I thought it was Bill Gates, which is scary enough, because that's one scary dude in real life. So that got my attention. And then he was convincing, and also his story holds together. He had a real reason for what he wanted to do. He was an orphan. He felt abused. He had angst. He knew about he'd investigated and he knew about the corruption, particularly of the Wayne Foundation. He knew what was going on. The whole thing kind of fell together. And he had this metaphor going on that it was a dirty, corrupt city that needed to be washed clean. So that was the... okay, stop here if you haven't seen it yet, but that was why he wanted to breach the flood barriers and have the water come in and clean the city. So the whole thing fitted together, and he was convincingly mental, but also the story, his justification, his reason for what he was doing made sense to me. So he was identifiable, unlike the Heath Ledger one. So that I really liked. Penguin was incredible, and it was one of those instances where I didn't realize who it was until you look at the credits, and then I did a double take. I think Colin Farrell did an incredible job. He was unrecognizable.
What people do here ain't got nothing to do with me.
And it's a complex character he was seemingly not that bad. He had some ethics, he had some morals.
It's law right there. World's greatest detectives. Am I the only one here knows the difference between Al and law? Jesus.
And he was likable. He's a good, complex character, and he drives a Maserati. What's not to like? So great on the villains. Then Catwoman. I mean, you know, we've had Michelle Pfeiffer.
I am Catwoman. Hear me roar.
She's like Hollywood royalty, but it was a bit silly in my opinion. Halle Berry, amazing, stunning lady, great actress, Oscar-winning actress, but not physically intimidating. Whereas Zoe Kravitz, what can you say? I mean, daughter of a rock legend, and Denise from The Cosby Show, stepdad, Jason Momoa. I mean, she's got to be something, but she has it all. I mean, she's beautiful, talented, intense, credible, convincing on the screen.
Hey, why am I starting to feel like a fish on a hook?
I think they did a good job in the fight choreography as well, that she's doing some high kicks and turns, etc. And she's still a lightweight physically, a lighter weight physical person. So she's able to stun them with multiple kicks, for instance, but she's not knocking them flat on their ass because she's just, you know, she's probably got, 50, 55 kilos to give. So I thought that was realistic. It was well done. But I mean, yeah, charismatic, enticing, sexy, intense, complicated. I have a thing for strays. It just worked, and I thought she was fantastic. And the motorcycle element as well, which comes later. Awesome, great villain. Well, villain stroke. Great character. Dark, kind of a villain, but Batman's teammate, reluctantly from his side. Yeah, complicated. That's what I liked. Commissioner Gordon, not an old man in a trench coat, so this was a nice change. He helps Batman escape the police station.
We gotta get you out of here.
Yep.
punch me in the face.
Takes a chance, which was cool. I like the idea of a strong character like that. He saves the mayor, throws himself on top of her when she's getting shot at. Ballsy, upstanding, strong character, and I like to see that rather than just the old-fashioned Commissioner Gordon, the man sort of, what shall we do, Batman? No, I mean it was a convincing character in his own right. I like that. And we mustn't forget that when Batman is down at the end and Selina, Catwoman, is getting beaten up, she's in danger of getting stabbed, and the Batman is struggling to get up, gives himself the dose of what presumably was adrenaline, and he's pulverizing that Riddler follower, and it's Gordon who stops him, and to whom Batman responds and calms down when he's pulverizing that guy's face. You can't talk about Batman without the Batmobile. And yeah, the original Batmobile was just a classic. It was, at the time, it just had everything, the looks, the ridiculous wings that fitted with Batman. It was an icon. We all had the one. I had a little Model 1, and I'm sure many of you did too, and it was cool. I mean, it was a big American flash car, but it's still cool because it's Batman. They got into that scenario of expanding it, making it more ridiculous, but slightly modernized and jet-powered or apparently nuclear-powered through the various movies, and it got further and further away from a practical car. So I really like this version that Pattinson's Batman was driving, because apparently it's a Chevy V8, it's a muscle car, armored. It was just raw. I really appreciated that, but also it's something you can aspire to. I mean, we could, if you save your money, you can buy a V8 muscle car. You're not going to probably make it bulletproof, but it was something that you could identify with and imagine driving, and I think that worked much better than some rocket-powered bullet that only Batman can drive. And that leads on to the bikes, the Bat bikes. So we have to remember, Batman can't fly. He can swing a limited distance, but he's not Spider-Man. So how does he get around the city? A modern congested city, a big car like the ones we've seen, it's not practical, and it attracts a lot of attention. Motorcycle is perfect, and it's something that's used in the old comics as well. It's an original part of Batman. So that I really liked, not just because I'm a biker myself, but it really worked. And again, the bikes, the Batman bike is it's known as a drifter, which is a Honda CB750 modified. It's something that you can buy. You could buy a bike like that and ride it around, and that, for me, that means that I feel like Batman. I feel like I could do it, and that draws me to the character. I think it's very clever, rather than some ridiculous bike like the one that comes out of the wreck of the Batmobile in the Nolan movie. The tires are just too wide. I remember reading an article from a stuntman saying that thing was just a bitch to drive. You can't go around corners. It was horrible. The tires are too big. It's just unrealistic. So I much preferred this version where you can imagine yourself riding it. And then also to add that Catwoman's on a bike, and she's on a modified BMW RT, I believe. Beautiful. It just gave you so much scope. It fits perfectly. They can get through the traffic. It's got a bad image. It's wearing leathers, a helmet, which is useful for identity, particularly for the Batman. And he can still wear it as if he's Bruce Wayne, and as long as he hasn't got the cape and the outfit on. So it just works really well. And it's got that beautiful scene at the end where they ride next to each other for a short while as they're saying goodbye. And then stop, and then go their separate ways. They part, a little bit Fast and Furious style. It was beautiful. I love that. So the story itself, which is the most important part with the character arcs, it's cohesive. It fits together. It's solid. It's a long movie, 3 hours almost, but it feels right. It doesn't feel artificial. It doesn't feel silly. It fits together, and the subplots feel natural as well. They're not contrived. So we've got Selina and Falcone, her father. We've got Alfred's role, where previously as the butler to Bruce Wayne, and now to Thomas Wayne, and now to Bruce Wayne. his history, that fits together. We've got the young boy who keeps appearing. I think it's the son of the police commissioner, I'm not sure, but that represents a young Bruce Wayne, and also we find out later a young Riddler. But perhaps that could be Robin. I think that's implied. So that theme of abandoned orphan children comes through, and so it's a motif through the story, as is the Ave Maria song, which is repeated all the way through. So the Batman, Bruce Wayne, learns that his father is not the Boy Scout, as Falcone says.
Father tried to pay the guy off, but he wasn't going for it, so he came to me.
So he has to learn a truth about his father. Then he has to deal with that. Then he has to realize it's a grey area. He didn't kill someone, but he did want him scared, and you could say he's partially responsible for what Falcone did. And we see the moment when one of the goon that Batman is pulverizing before Gordon stops him, he says he is vengeance. He steals the Batman's line.
I'm vengeance.
Which underlines the transition, the vacuum that's created, because now, okay, Batman is not vengeance anymore. What is he? And we see that he changes from a reactive, vengeful character, just exacting revenge against any person, any evildoer who represents the people who killed his mum and dad. He turns into a symbol of hope, and literally that very powerful scene where he's carrying the light, leading the people away from the wreck inside the flooded auditorium. And so it's symbolic of this change, where he's not this dark, hidden character exacting his own personal revenge in a uncontrolled fashion. He's now a character on the side of the downtrodden. He is somebody who understands them, even though he comes from great wealth, and he's using that the way his father intended, to try and make change and to lead, and most importantly, to give hope. And that's the message.
Vengeance won't change the past. Mine or anyone else's.
Because the end of the movie, it's not happy. And he even says, things will get a lot worse before they get a lot better. So we're leaving him, the Batman character, and the city in a mess. And it is dark, it is corrupt, it is it's flooded, it's not cleaned, it's like a sewer. But he has a purpose now, and the people have responded to him as someone who's there to help them and stand for them and show them an example of courage and hope. And that for me is a good, solid story. And I think that's the uplifting feeling you get at the end. It's not a silly, and it's fairy tale, everything is fixed. No, it's a mess, and you've got to work hard. But he's found his purpose, found his role, and is beginning to be beloved of the people. And then you add the details, like we see that the emblem on his chest, the bat emblem, half of it becomes a knife when he needs it. When he needs the adrenaline jab, where does he stick the adrenaline into? His bulletproof costume. Oh, there's a small hatch, a circular hatch that he can put it in. Beautiful little details like that. We see that Bruce Wayne, when he's out of the suit, is bruised and scratched and scraped because he's been thrown down the street and shot and beaten. And he does take blows in the film. He's not superhuman. He's a high-functioning human, but he's not a superhuman. We see he puts black around his eyes, and that runs. And it's the movie did win. Was nominated 2023 Oscars for hair and makeup for those reasons. I mean, you might wonder why. It all seems to be dark and greasy and wet, but that's what they were going for. Apart from a couple of very rare scenes, because you only see Batman twice in the daylight, or at the dawn when he's with Selina, where she set up the bat signal, and then later when they're riding the motorcycles, and it's not a bright sunlit dawn by any means. It's all dark and rainy, and it's matched by the cinematography that's using the lenses they created for that mood. So I think it's a complicated, tight, finished product. It worked really well. It left me satisfied, uplifted, motivated, and I am very interested to see what comes next. Presumably the person making friends with the Riddler at the end is the Joker.
The less of them you have, the more one is worth.
And so we wonder if there's a sequel involving those two characters. Who's the Joker? Is it Joaquin Phoenix, for instance? I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope it maintains this feeling, this cohesive, powerful darkness that makes me think this is the best one so far.